It's my great pleasure today to be with Ann Butler and a very special dog. Ann, who is this?
This is Molly the collie.
Molly the collie. Now, Molly, who is here, who is an absolutely beautiful dog, she's just completed quite a major round of hills, isn't she?
Yes, she is the first known dog to have completed the Corbetts, which she did on Garsven of Ardgour in June. And we had a special celebration. There was several of our walking friends and 5 of her canine friends came along. So I pity anyone else that was on the hill that day because it wasn't very quiet with 5 dogs running around. And Hamish Brown came. He was invited by Peter Willimot and came along to greet us at the summit because he was the owner of the first dog to do the Munros. So he's been at both firsts now.
Now, Hamish's dog, was that Storm?
I think it was Storm, yes.
Yeah.
Storm that did the Munro.
Yeah.
No, it might have been Kitschy or Storm. I'm not sure which one was the first one to do it. But it was lovely because for once the talk wasn't all day just of Munro bagging. So I think Hamish enjoyed it because there was a lot of talk about dogs rather than people boring him with Munros all day. It was a lovely day. We had perfect weather and unfortunately we had to abandon the first attempt in May because there were 100-mile-an-hour winds and we couldn't even open the car door at the ferry. So.
Now, as far as Molly and you around the hills, Anne, I know you've done an awful lot of hill bagging.
Yeah.
A bit of a silly question. Who's the quickest?
Well, a very silly question. No, Molly. She's a Dartmoor farm dog. She's born and bred on the moors of Devon, and both her parents are working sheepdogs. So she's built for stamina and agility. So being on the hills for 8 hours for Molly is just a walk in the park. And I'm very lucky at the moment that I don't work, so I can devote myself full time to entertaining her. And we go out as often as weather, we're fair weather walkers now. But Molly enjoys, she can easily do 6-7 days back to back on the hill. And she's incredibly fit.
That stamina, even for a dog, is pretty
Yeah.
good, isn't it? You've also got another dog that you go hill walking
Yes,
with.
I go with a friend of mine. It's almost like a bit of a doggy share. A friend of mine works and does a lot of training and lots of courses where she can't take her dog. So I look after Millie, who's an ex-search and rescue dog, and who's also a border collie. So they're both quite a handful on the hill. And last week we were over in Ardgour and they went into a campsite, into a shop and stole a tennis ball. So they've both got ASBOs in the West Highlands.
But as far as the hills are concerned, Anne, because now, obviously you've done an awful lot of hill walking with Molly,
Mm-hmm.
but your hill exploits, they're quite extraordinary as well, aren't they? Because you've done quite a few rounds of the Munros.
Well, we're not extraordinary. I think people just wonder why I do it, and so do I at times. No, we used to live in Devon and came up here. My husband's in the Navy, and we came up here for a couple of trips while he was at Faslane, the naval base on the Clyde, and came up to Fort William one day for a bit of a sightsee and discovered, oh look, wonder what they are, and discovered Munros. And we'd already done lots of walking in Devon, Dartmoor, Exmoor, that sort of thing, and decided that we might give it a go. And after maybe about 20-30 hills, I was quite hooked. And I suppose I'm a bit of an obsessive collector. I think it runs in our family because my dad's a train spotter. And I just look on Munro bagging as being a bit like energetic train spotting because you walk up, tick it off on a list, walk down again as opposed to sitting on a station. And we've all got thermos flasks, it's the same thing, and got a bit hooked. And then I did the first round, took 7 years when we lived in Devon, which was a bit of a logistical nightmare. I got a bit tired with driving up the M5 and the M6, to put it mildly. And then my husband, luckily, about nearly 5 years ago, got a transfer up here. And we lived in Helensburgh for a while and then moved to Aviemore, which is a perfect base for going north, south, east or west, wherever the weather's, wherever the weather's best, really. And I'm hoping to try and do a round a year and get to 7 rounds, which is what I'd like to do, at just before my 50th birthday, which will be in 2015.
Well,
my knees hold out, I'll do it.
I have to admit, I think it's pretty extraordinary the amount of sort of hill time that you must have to do something like that. But you must have some fantastic experiences.
Oh yes, you can't. Every day is different. Some days I admit are a bit of a chore when you're feeling very tired and you've got to go out because the weather's nice. But there's always something positive to on a hill day. And you get fantastic weather, you meet great people. I enjoy walking on my own, I enjoy walking with friends. And I have to give them a plug. I'm a member of an online walking club called scottishhills.com. And through that I've met some fantastic friends that I've been walking with for many, many years. And just being out with like-minded people who really want to be there, people who enjoy it. We have meets all around Scotland. And it's fantastic. I couldn't have met a nicer bunch of people. And Molly and I just go out on our own if no one else wants to walk with us. If most people are working in the week, actually. We just poodle out. I mean, this week we've been to... Where have we been this week? We've been to Lochcoig, we've been to Glencoe, and we had a quick blast up Benwivis this week, so we've had quite a lazy week for us.
But as far as bagging the Munros are concerned, Anne, as you said, when your husband and you came up from Devon, you found that much better, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
The distances involved travelling
Yes.
from the south of England.
Because it used to take, if we drove up, to get up to sort of Ullapool or even Aviemore really, was a day and a half or 2 days of driving. Whereas now we've got them on the doorstep virtually. There's nothing, I mean, I do a lot of driving, and I'll drive to Cranelarrick is my sort of southern boundary of day trippable hills. Anything below Cranelarrick is just really too far to drive comfortably. But most of the other hills I've got used to doing now as day trips, because I'd much rather sort of go home and have the luxury of a nice warm shower and a comfy bed than stay in a tent. So I'm a bit of a lightweight in that respect.
So with the Munros, is that the 282 and not including all the tops that you're doing?
No, I haven't finished the tops yet. I've still got a few of those to do. I'm really just picking them off as I go along. I'm going to do them, but they're not my prime focus at the moment. The Munros are. I finished my Corbetts. I did a joint completion of my second Munro round and my Corbett round in 2010 up near the Cluny Inn, and we walked over. I did it with a joint completion with a friend of mine called David McRonald, and we were both neck and neck on the Corbetts and realised that we would have a bit of a problem if we both wanted to go to each other's completion. So we did a joint Corbett completion on Ann Butler above the Cluny Inn, and then we all walked out and did Kishti Do, the Munro behind, and finished my second round that day, which was a great celebration. And I get a lot of ribbing from my friends because I don't do Grahams, and it's almost got to a point of principle now that I will do them eventually, but at the moment I avoid them like the plague. But if a top's en route or it's a nice day and I've got the energy, I'll go out and bag a top, an extra one.
So what about the third and fourth rounds? What hills did they finish on?
Well, I did my first round in 2005 was on Sgurel de Moor in the Moors. You'll have to excuse my pronunciation, but I'm English. And then I did, like I said, Kishti Do and Ann Butler for 2. And then as we were walking off the hill, that was on the 3rd of July or the 4th of July, I think. And then one of my friends said to me, same time next year, Anne, and I like a challenge. So for some stupid reason, I had to do it within a year. So the next round took 364 days. And I have to admit, it was the skin of my teeth. I did the last 2 on the Wednesday with the completion on the Saturday. Because it was the year where May was a complete write-off with gales and torrential rain. So all the big days that I had planned for May had to be postponed. And then it took me 14 months for the next one, and then I've planned in round 5 for September next year on Ben Scriel. So round 3 was on Sleoch. I can't remember whether... Oh, God, it was only in... Ben Shalom was round 4.
So how far through round 5 are you?
I'm 85 now.
85.
I'm hoping to sort of get comfortably over 100 before Christmas.
Yeah.
And then just plod away on some Corbetts and things over when the bad weather's here. And then get going sort of February, March time again.
So why have you set yourself the goal of 7?
Well, the female at the moment, the female record is 6. There's another lady called Hazel Strachan who's on 4, and I think she's aiming for 5. And I don't really know. 7's always been a number to me that's I've liked. You know, it was always at school. I was always number 7 in different teams, and it's just always a number that's been quite lucky for me. So I thought 7's a good number to end on. But by the time I get to 7, I probably would have done quite a lot for 8. So who knows? Who knows?
No,
If I haven't died of boredom by then.
there's not many people that go beyond 7, though, is there?
Not many. I think there's only people like Stuart Logan and Stephen Fallon, people like that are sort of in the double figures. And I think Robert MacDonald from the Munro Society, he's on 9 at the moment, so
Yeah.
he's going to be into double figures very soon, I think.
And I know Stuart's done 10.
Stuart's done 10, and I'm pretty sure Steve Fallon's done about 14 or something.
And that is
amazing.
extraordinary, isn't
Yes,
it?
yeah. But I think he's a fell running type, and whereas I'm not exactly built for fell running. So for him, I mean, he can do absolutely amazing days. Days that would take most of us 2 or 3. He can do in one day of fell running. So.
Now, you mentioned that you may not go on to the Grahams, but
I'm sure I
who
will
knows eventually?
I'm sure. But Molly's done almost 800 Munros, but she hasn't done all of them on Skye because of my nerves. I'm sure she'd be able to do it.
Yeah.
And I know a man with a rope who would help me over with her. But I just feel that, you know, I've got enough to worry about on Skye with myself
Yeah.
without worrying about her safety too.
Yeah.
So she's done a few of the easy ones, but there's still the tricky ones. But she's got quite a lot of swaps, let's put it that way.
Now, her Corbett round, if we can go back
Yeah.
to that, you mentioned the first canine
Yeah.
to complete the
Yeah.
Corbetts, and she is an absolutely beautiful dog, isn't she?
Yeah.
Very attentive,
Yeah, she's very
Beautiful.
nosy. She loves to see what's going on.
beautiful face.
Mm-hmm.
If we concentrate on the day itself a little
Yeah.
bit, when you went up there, you've given a few sort of details before, but what time did you set off? And
Well, I think we all started walking. I mean, we all met at the Corran Ferry on this side of Loch Linney, and then bundled into as few cars as possible to save the £7 each way fare. So, and when we were in the ferry, the boatman knocked on the window of the car behind. He also had to have friends in and said, "Oh, is this your dog that's doing the Corbetts today? Because it's in the Daily Record." And my mate said, "No, it's in the car in front." So he came up with the paper for us, and there was a photo that was taken on one of the Glenorchy Corbetts, which I won't even attempt to pronounce, something like Ben Oodley. And Molly, we'd been up there in the winter, and we got to the cairn, and there was obviously something buried in the top of the cairn. So Molly stood up on her hind legs and went to sniff it, and it looks like she's kissing the cairn. And it was just a photo that the press seemed to latch onto, and it was just publicised on our website, and we gave it to one person, which is a friend of mine, Heather Morning, that works for the MC of S. And Heather put it out in a little press release, and suddenly everybody wanted that photo, and photos of Molly abseiling, Molly standing on the top of the cobbler and things like that. But yeah, so when we met at the other side of the ferry, it was bedlam, because there were 5 dogs who'd just been in the car for a couple of hours travelling, suddenly running around. Oh, Molly's seen something. Free and, you know, having a great time. And it took us about 3 hours to walk up, because it was a gorgeous day. I mean, the visibility was stunning. It was blue sky, it was warm, and everyone was just loving the occasion. And then when we got to the summit, there's a dip between the summit and a little top you go over en route on the ridge, and we could see people milling around on the top. And when we got there, it was Peter Willimott from the Munro Society, his wife Heather, and Hamish Brown were waiting for us. And we had, because it's traditional for a Munro celebration that we have champagne, but I didn't think the dogs would want that, so I'd spent a fortune on sausages. So each of them had 6 prime pork sausages each. So they loved that. That was their doggy reward, all the dogs. And then we had some special big, huge chocolate cookies to celebrate, and a lovely leisurely chat at the top. And then when we got back, I was very surprised with the interest. It must have been a slow news week, because everybody, you know, I was getting phone calls from different newspapers, and I hate that sort of publicity thing. And a freelance journalist took our story, came to take photos of Molly, and we ended up in the Scotsman, the Daily Record did a 2-page spread, and we've been asked to produce things for different journals and things like that. So I think it's just people like a good news story, and people love dog stories. So, you know.
as well as it being a good news story,
Yes, yeah.
it's also good news, isn't
Yes,
it?
yeah.
Yeah. What's next for Molly, and what's next for you? You're doing your 5th round, and
Yes.
sort of aiming to finish that on
28th of September next year.
next year.
No, Molly's. I haven't really got any goals for her yet. I mean, I think I'm hoping to finish the 2nd round of Corbetts eventually. I'm 2/3 of the way through that, and Molly's already well into the 80s of her 2nd round, because we had another dog called Meg before Molly, who used to hill bag, but that was when we lived in Devon, so Meg didn't do as much as Molly. So there's a bit of an overlap between my Corbetts and Molly's. So every time I go and log a hill, it's a repeat for Molly. So her numbers are clicking up. So it'll get to the stage where if I do 2 rounds, she's almost done 2 rounds. So she might end up doing 2. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it goes.
Well, before I close off, Anne, it's been lovely meeting you. Lovely meeting Molly as well. But
She's been remarkably well behaved for Molly, yeah.
she really has, because I've seen her on the lead with you. As you were saying before we started filming,
Yeah.
she was pulling on the lead, wasn't she? Because she knows she's going out
She
for a
wants
walk.
to go for a walk. As soon as she sees the rucksack in the car, she's not good in the car on the way there. She's not too bad if we're just going around for a little walk around Rothiemurchus and Aviemore, because she doesn't associate, you know, rucksacks with big days out. But as soon as the rucksack goes in the car, she stands in the back and pants for the whole journey. Even if it's a 2-hour drive, she pants. But on the way back, she just falls asleep, and you know, she's raring to go again in the morning.
Because as far as the walk today is concerned, this is another Corbett that you're
No,
heading
we're
up?
doing a couple of Munros in the Memorials this morning.
Ah.
Not too far to drive, just back down to Glen Nevis.
Yeah.
And then
Well-
off to Torridon tomorrow, aren't we?
Well, before I close off, Anne, any last comments concerning your hill bagging and also Molly's?
No, we're just to say, I mean, anybody that, you know, disapproves of dogs on the hills, which I know lots of people do because they think they disturb wildlife, and they're bad for sheep and what have you. I just say, if your dog's well trained. I mean, Molly, unfortunately, is embarrassing sheepdog because she's scared of sheep. When she was a puppy, I had a horse down on Dartmoor, and we were out riding one day, and Molly was just plodding along behind as she'd been trained to do, and she got too near a little lamb because the lambs on Dartmoor run around grazing, and the ewe came over and sort of head-butted her and stamped on her a bit. So now whenever she sees a sheep, her ears go down, her tail goes down, and she tucks in behind you, which for a sheepdog is quite embarrassing considering her parents were sheepdogs. But no, I mean, I think a dog's a fantastic companion to have on the hill. You know, they're always a subject for conversation. I mean, Molly's been recognised by quite a lot of people because she's been in the papers and been on websites and in books and journals. And the other day, I was up on the Wee Buckle in Glencoe, and as I was walking down, somebody said to me, "Oh, is it Anne?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "I thought so, we recognise Molly." But, you know, but she hasn't let the fame go to her head. She's not a diva yet.
Well done. Well, Anne, it's been tremendous meeting you. Many, many thanks for your time this morning. And also, it's been fantastic meeting Molly.
Yeah, who's, like I said, been remarkably well behaved.
So, Ann Butler and Molly, the collie, many, many thanks.
Thank you.